Hello and welcome to Genius Indian. Friends, today we are going to briefly discuss barter system. Barter system, as you know, is a system of exchange where goods or services are directly exchanged for other goods or services without using money. Here it must be mentioned that bartering is not gift economy. If a job seeker pays gold worth 5 lakh rupees to a government officer to help him get a job 6 months later, then this is not barter. This is simply a case of bribe. In barter system, the reciprocal exchange is usually immediate and it is not delayed in time. And more than that, barter is between two legally tradable commodities. The history of bartering dates all the way back to 6000 BC. Goods were exchanged for food, tea, weapons, and spices. And while salt was always a popular item for barter, sometimes crazy things like human skulls were also bartered. There are indications that bartering was introduced by Mesopotamian tribes almost 8,000 years back. And later on, bartering was adopted by Phoenicians. During Middle Ages, Europeans traveled around the globe to barter crafts and furs in exchange for silks and perfumes. Colonial Americans exchanged musket balls, deer skins, and wheat. And even when the British East India Company came to India, it initially tried to barter the goods manufactured in England for spices and silks here. As we can understand, these are all the examples of the times when proper money was not regularly available to people. However, bartering continued even when proper money came into circulation. For example, barter system has been extensively used in times of monetary crisis, such as when the currency may be unstable. For example, during the periods of hyperinflation or during the periods of deflationary spiral. This is what happened in Weimar Germany. During 1920s, the German government began printing too many marks to buy the foreign currency, as a result of which the German marks lost their value and lost it so much that the government was forced to print a currency note with a face value as high as 100 trillion marks. That's right, 100 trillion marks. That is 100 followed by 12 zeros. As a result of this crazy situation, the marks became worthless pieces of paper. Often children played with them. Some made kites out of them, while others played with them as Lego blocks. Often, when the firewood was in shortage, the women would burn a couple of currency notes to cook a meal. Workers brought wheelbarrows and sacks and suitcases to their workplace to collect their wages. And according to one story, a distracted worker found that his suitcase was stolen. However, the thief simply ran away with the suitcase and threw the currency notes behind. As you can understand, for the thieves, the suitcase was more valuable than the currency notes inside it. Goes without saying, the value of the mark sank and sank further and became laughably low. In 1914, the exchange rate of the German mark to the American dollar was about 4.2 to 1. However, 9 years later, in 1923, it was 4.2 trillion to 1. And almost the same situation developed in Zimbabwe more than 10 years back. There too, hyperinflation forced the local government to print a currency note of $100 trillion. The absurdity of such a large denomination can simply be guessed by considering a simple fact that the GDP of a big country like India is just 2.5 trillion US dollars. And that $100 trillion note in Zimbabwe at that time was not even sufficient to buy you a meal. And just as was the case in Weimar Germany, the people in Zimbabwe also were forced to switch to barter system in order to carry out the transactions of daily life. As you can understand, both of these examples belong to situations where the currency was decimated due to hyperinflation. However, barter system also kicks in at times when cash is simply not available. This is what happened in India during 2016 demonetization drive when people had to manage without sufficient cash for 2 months. At that time, in many villages, rice had become a common medium of exchange. Rice for lentils, rice for potatoes, rice for cooking oil, and as this cartoon depicts, rice even in exchange of wine. It is said that barter is inefficient because there needs to be a double coincidence of wants. If you want to exchange rice for fish, then you need to find out a fisherman who needs rice. Second is, there is no common measure of value of the goods being bartered. How much mustard oil needs to be paid in exchange of a pair of chappals is not written in stone. Third is indivisibility of certain goods. If 50 kilos of wheat equals a sheep, then you cannot subdivide a sheep in exchange for 25 kilos grain. And the fourth inefficiency is difficulty in storing wealth. If someone has 200 chicken eggs, she can't store them as wealth for 6 months as they will go bad. She will have to somehow convert them into some form of wealth which is storable, which is non-perishable. Because of all these difficulties and because of circulation of dependable forms of money, during the 19th century, people began switching away from bartering. Retailers operating out of the Palais complex in Paris were among the first in Europe to give up the practice of bartering and adopt fixed prices, thereby sparing their clients the hassle of bartering. Yet, in spite of all its flaws, bartering is not dead. It is estimated that over 500,000 businesses in the United States were involved in some kind of bartering activities during 2010. Similarly, the Catalonia region of Spain has a growing number of exchange markets. Similarly, in Canada, the largest B2B barter exchange is Trade Bank. And here in India, we have a Facebook group called Let's Barter India, which claims to have more than 100,000 members. However, the largest hotspot of bartering in our country are the college hostels, where everything from toothpaste to shoe polish is routinely bartered. And while in the college hostels bartering happens because of necessity, Michael Wigge of Germany simply made it the mission of his life. In 2011, Wigge traveled around 14 countries and 6 continents, exchanging goods in his possession for more valuable ones. Taking on bartering as the sole means of survival, he traded an apple for 16 cigarettes in Germany and fixed up a motorized rickshaw in exchange for a piece of silk cloth in India. And not only this outlandish mechanism helped him travel around the world without spending any money at all, it also helped him write a couple of best-selling books like How to Travel the World for Free and How to Barter for Paradise. So friends, this was a brief intro to barter system. In the next episode, I will be discussing some other topic, a topic that improves our understanding of the world, and a topic that helps us realize our true potential. So please don't miss it. And the best way not to miss it is to subscribe to Genius Indian channel. And the best way to spread this knowledge is to like and share the video. And the best way to help me improve the quality of my work is to provide your valuable feedback. And finally, the best way to end this conversation is to tell you thanks for watching.